What's up, Kansas City? I'm your host, Glenn Brian Frizzell. Today we're in the historic Lincoln Building. My special guest has been 1st District at-Large City Councilman since 2011. He also serves as Mayor Pro Tem. We'd like to extend a warm What's Up, Kansas City welcome to Mr. Scott Wagner.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Let's jump right in. I understand this week, City Council news, and also later on at the Urban Summit, we are going to be discussing the $800 million bond proposal. Now, can you discuss this? Can you tell us a little bit about this? Understand that it might require voters to raise property taxes?
Right, so
Sure.
So this is part of a discussion of a general obligation bond, which would essentially be part of what we would term as really an infrastructure proposal for the city. This would be a proposal that would go out for 20 years, so beginning in 2017 if it were to pass, and for the 20 years beyond that, to really deal with some of the infrastructure issues that this city has. Now, we've talked, since I've been on the council, about deferred maintenance for a long time, and if one were to take all the things that need to be maintained and fixed, you're looking at about a $6 billion price tag. So this bond offering certainly won't fix everything, but will certainly be a leap in the right direction. But in order for that to be possible, what we have suggested is that taxes would have to be raised. Property taxes over the course of those 20 years. And so what's been suggested is essentially a rise of about $8 a year. If you own a house that's about $100,000 in value, and you have a car that's about $10,000 in value, that would be about an $8 rise every year for the next 20 years.
For each?
Well, just in total. So if you own that amount of property as an average, that would be, you'd be looking at about that much. So that over the course of the 20 years, by the time you ended that 20 years, it would be an additional total of $120 on your property tax, just as an example.
Thank you. We advocate ownership here. Is there any opposition to this? You mentioned the raise in property taxes. In terms of deferred maintenance, what happens if voters don't agree?
Well, if voters don't agree, then essentially what happens is there's not a dedicated fund to help deal with those issues. I mean, what we've talked about on the council are a number of things, whether it's roads, sidewalks, flood control plans, other things, many of which have been either tackled a little here and a little there, or not at all. And so really, what we're asking for voters to consider, and we'll be finalizing this as we get into January, but what we're asking voters to consider is to see value in the repair and maintenance of our infrastructure. And to the degree that they see that value, we hope that they'll agree that just with a small rise in their property tax, that we can get something done.
Sounds like we need to really promote a strong coalition to get this approved. I understand that you recently came back from Pittsburgh around the Thanksgiving weekend. The National League of Cities Conference, has a look at my notes, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Can you tell us a little bit about the takeaways from that conference?
Sure. So for those who aren't aware, the National League of Cities is a national organization made up of towns and cities across the country. About 3,000 of them participate in this organization, and Kansas City is one. Every year they do their city summit, which this year was in Pittsburgh, as you mentioned. Really, there were a couple of takeaways for me. One, nationally speaking, and then maybe one that's more local. Nationally, most cities are trying to figure out what's going to happen with the next administration.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I personally participate in an advocacy committee on community and economic development, and we were trying to figure out what are we going to do in 2017 as a part of our advocacy, and we left ourselves really thinking that we won't know what to advocate for until this administration really gets started, which is not a great takeaway to have, but what we found was consistently across all of those advocacy groups within the National League of Cities that we're all waiting. Now, I will tell you that being in Pittsburgh was very informational, and what I took away from there was really two things that I hope we will bring back to Kansas City. One is Pittsburgh has just as much of a crisis in their housing as we do here in Kansas City. Vacancies and those sorts of things. For Pittsburgh, they are a city of roughly 300,000 people in about 50 square miles. Kansas City, we have 470,000 people within 320 square miles. So when they have issues in Pittsburgh, they're almost just as acute, if not more so, than in Kansas City. So they have vacancy issues, they have properties that are in disrepair, much in the same way that we do. What was very, in a sense, inspirational was seeing that their banking community has come forward and put funds together to allow for the rehabilitation of properties in Pittsburgh. And that local participation, not having to count on federal funds, has really allowed them to move and accelerate how they're able to do with those vacant properties. And I'm hopeful that we can take some lessons from them to see how we can do that in Kansas City. Pardon me. The other thing to take away, though, is as many of your viewers know, Kansas City is having to deal with the overflow control program, that rise in sewer rates to meet the federal mandate that we have for combined sewer flows. What Pittsburgh has done is very interesting in that although they have taken a lot of lessons from Kansas City in the way of green solutions, they're also integrating how they build streets and boulevards, and how their solution is not just a water department solution, but it's a solution that deals with public works, their parks department, and really aligning all of those. And the importance of that is that no city wants their problem to get any worse than it already is. They want to be able to move with the times and to be able to do good practices that allow for water to not necessarily enter their sewers and wastewater systems. The bottom line with all of that is to do things in such a way where the cost of meeting these mandates are lower because you're having a fully integrated solution. And so I'm hopeful that we can take some of those lessons from Pittsburgh, apply them to Kansas City, and ideally, if those integrated solutions can work and more of those green solutions can come forward, then that means less of a price tag for Kansas City, which hopefully means lower rates for our ratepayers. And I think everybody would be happy to not see their sewer rates rise as much as they have been. And I can completely understand.
Excellent. Can you tell us, your co-worker, Ms. Heather Hall, was here last week, and she mentioned some of her advocacy projects going on in the particular first district
Sure.
you represent.
Sure.
I know when you ran your current platform issues on public safety, improving neighborhoods, economic development, correct?
Yes.
What have you been doing to promote those? And I know also Clay and Platte County have the HERO Property Assessed Clean Energy Program.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit?
I'd love to.
The things going on in the Northland.
Well, there is, and they're just starting with that particular program. The HERO program was something that came as a result of Kansas City joining the Missouri Clean Energy District, and that was actually something that I sponsored back 3 years ago. As a result of that, we talk about green solutions. Those green solutions for structures that the Missouri Clean Energy Program is designed to do has now most recently moved into the residential area. And that's where the HERO program really comes in. And so we have found that we've just introduced that program in Clay and Platte counties. It started in the Jackson County part of Kansas City back in September. Now we're in the Northland starting last month. And we've already gotten a couple of projects already done in the Northland, and there are many more that are coming online. And so my belief is anytime you can create essentially a new industry, and that sort of green industry that looks into how you can save money on your power is really in its infancy in Kansas City. But with the residential piece coming online, that will really drive its development, and it's going to be very, very exciting.
I know heat is one issue for our residents in winter. What can Northland residents do to maybe reduce their energy bill costs during the winter?
So all they really need to do is access the HERO program to kind of start and kind of that longer term piece. An auditor will come out and look at how much savings that they can have. Interestingly, sometimes we think about it's all about replacing your doors and windows. Sometimes it's just making sure that you're insulating properly. But the idea is that if you can at least save 15% of what you would normally pay for your electricity, gas, for whatever, then that can provide you an opportunity to monetize those improvements. And so the value of the HERO program and the Missouri Clean Energy District that Kansas City is a part of is some of these improvements, if they're costly, you have an opportunity to put that within your property tax and just make payments for that over time. So it's a way to kind of spread out that expense while hopefully seeing some real cost savings. But someone can call my office at 816-513-6503. We can put you in touch with the Missouri Clean Energy District, and they can come out and assess your property, see if they can help you out, and hopefully in the process you'll get some great folks working in Kansas City to do some more work in our area.
Great, excellent. Now you're having the bond, $8 million bond proposal discussion until mid-January.
Mm-hmm.
We know that your reach extends outside of your first district, Northland area there. We talked to Quentin Lucas before.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that a mental health facility went up. Is it in Prospect?
So at 12th and Prospect,
How important was that?
it was hugely important. The KC Assessment and Triage Center, which was something that I worked on for about 2.5 years, with the great help of Judge Joe Locascio from our municipal court, is really our way of getting people the right help they need, especially if they are in a mental health situation. The importance of that is before the end of October, if you were to ask me, what is the mental health ward of the city, I would have directed you to the city jail. Because for the most part, if someone was calling the police, maybe someone was loitering somewhere, or just generally seemed like they had an issue, the police would come, they would arrest them, and they would take them to the jail, or they would take them to the emergency room at a local hospital.
Kind of like Otis on Andy Griffith.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not his friend.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I mean, that is a good enough analogy, especially for those who know the classic television. But you're right in the sense that there was really nowhere else to go, and so we created this, which has been modeled in communities across the country. And the idea is that if it's clear that someone is in a mental health situation, or it's clear that someone may be drunk, they just need to sober up, you could take them into jail, and then the officer is going to do that report, and they're going to essentially babysit them for an hour. Or you can take them somewhere, or they can take them somewhere where they can drop them off, they're getting the help they need, and that officer can go back out on the street. And that's really what we've put together. And so this is a 16-bed facility that is at the Missouri State Department of Mental Health's building at 12th and Prospect. And this is really a partnership between the State Department of Mental Health, the city, area hospitals, and the municipal court. And this is really an opportunity for us to treat people in the way that they need to be treated, to get them the type of help they need. As I said, there's about 16 beds. They can stay at that facility for about 23 hours, and there are support services that are then offered to them at the end of that time. So if it's clear that they are ready for some help, then they go on to the next step to get them out of their crisis situation.
Fantastic.
If for whatever reason they don't want that help, they can go back into the community. And as we know, many times those individuals who are in those situations, sometimes you have to reach out to 2, 5, 10, 20 times before they're ready for help. But the reality is that they've got to have the help, and we have it ready for them. And so we're just really excited about what we've done so far. We've helped a large number of individuals already, a lot more people to help. But on the public safety side of things, instead of keeping our officers, or in some cases our ambulances, dealing with an individual for a long period of time, they can just take them to this facility and they're back out to help the public for other more emergency situations.
It all connects. What is your background in, Mr. Wagner?
So I was a marketing guy for many, many years.
Wow.
And so, but before I came on to the council, I was also dealing with neighborhood issues. And so, much of my own neighborhood experience is what drove me to run in the first place and do some of the things that we're working on now.
As First District at Large City Councilman, can you tell us what is the City Council's focus moving forward?
Well, the reality is that the focus is in many areas, and so my focus is unfocused, I guess would be the right answer. But, the things that we have coming up, we've already talked about the GEO bond program, but we've also, got our upcoming annual budget that we'll be discussing beginning in February. That'll be an opportunity for folks to weigh in on how they want to see the city spend money. In addition to being the mayor pro tem, I'm also the chair of our finance committee, so I get very budget focused at the beginning of the year. But everyone has their issues that they're working on in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economic development. I think as an at-large council person, I am responsible somewhat to everybody in the entire city.
Is everybody getting along?
Well, at least with me they seem to be, but I would tell you that I've yet to go anywhere in the city and not hear that there's some challenge that has to be overcome. And so whether it's in public safety or economic development, people are looking for jobs, people are looking for opportunities to get training in order to be able to get a certain kind of job. And those are all things that I'm working on, and they're all things that many of my colleagues are working on.
How's the partnership with South Kansas City?
Well, I think it's very good. There are two great council members in the 6th District and in the 5th who are doing a wonderful job. All the issues are very consistent across the city, so trying to work with everyone to come up with solutions that are good for everybody, that's part of our objective.
Councilman Wagner, Mayor Pro Tem, do you have any closing words for What's Up Kansas City?
Well, I think for What's Up Kansas City, I appreciate you watching and being involved in issues that matter. And I think what I would urge anybody is to be involved with the city when opportunities arise, to become publicly involved, either coming to public meetings or learning about what we do. We try not to have any secrets, and I'll tell everybody every secret we've got, but you got to come out to hear those things. So when we get to our budget, come on out for that. And any opportunity you have to interact with your council members, I would encourage anybody to do.
What's Up Kansas City? You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. I hope you don't mind me calling you.
I've been called worse.
Mr. Wagner, we'll have to invite you back when it gets a little closer to April and we're dealing with some of the things on the ballot. I'm Glenn Frizzell. Go online, What's Up Kansas City, for more video and information, www.whatsupkansascity.net. And remember, the sky is the limit. Aim for the moon. If you miss, at the very least, you would have landed among the stars. Take care until next time. Thank you.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Cat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.